It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now it's my favorite part of the show, wherein I guess what is in Tim's background. And I'm going to guess it's a slam dunk. It's going to be Hunter Biden's laptop with Vladimir Putin's visage on the screensaver. Am I right about that?
You are very close, but not quite.
Okay, let's take a look.
Here I am in front of the trash can where he threw away the pistol.
I see. Is there anything I can scavenge for? I'm planning on being homeless one of these days. Looks like what you got Panera, you got 7-Eleven, Slurpee. What's that tan cup next to the Panera? Is that that's not Old Bowl Pan? Oh, that's Starbucks. Okay, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So, does anybody, speaking of litigation, a Supreme Court case came down today, Starbucks versus a union, and I guess Starbucks won 9-0. What, I mean, I didn't look into the details on it, but what happened to all the progressives? What's going on here?
It must have been, when it's 9-0. Oh my gosh, that must have been. I didn't even see that one. That one.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at the headline.
That one came down during my nap, apparently.
Right, and every man needs his nap. Joe Biden. You're one of those, and I'm kind of it too. It's like, all right, he's a little senescent. That doesn't mean he can do the job, even though I disagree with the job. I mean, if it was a conservative Republican, like Reagan, supposedly was comatose, according to Bill O'Reilly, based on very thin grounds. But
was it Woodrow Wilson that was actually dead?
Totally, yeah. His wife took over. Woodrow Wilson was, like a vegetable.
Yeah, they stuck him in a freezer. She stuck him in a freezer. So, it would have been an ice box in those days.
Yeah. Well, and at Kennedy, they had administered the last rites to him like 6 times. Kennedy never would have survived. There's so many people who never would have survived in today's day and age. With the internecine or whatever we call it. So, I
don't know if you saw this. Speaking of trash, somebody put a one of those Apple trackers on a bottle and put it in his recycling bin just to see where it ended up.
Oh,
straight to landfill.
That's great. I didn't even know what an Apple tracker. I know they have them on. Like, your phone can never get lost. I was amazed. I was on the golf course once, and it was playing with a guy who had lost his phone, and you couldn't, under any normal circumstances 25 years ago, you couldn't have found a phone on a golf course. But yeah, all you did was
you could 25 years ago you could have traced the cord.
Exactly.
It would be pretty easy to find the phone in those days.
That's true. That's
true. That was actually a comedy shtick, I think, that I've seen a couple times, where somebody's like waking up hungover and the phone's ringing, and he grabs the phone to find the phone, and it's like underneath a whole pile of trash.
Anyway, so it has here on the rundown that we're supposed to talk about CNN's so-called scoop on Alito. I mean, there's the bias is, it's always there, but it's never been more flagrant as it's been in recent weeks. I mean, CNN, I don't know what they're trying to do.
Is this the one? Is this the one where he said that if America was more godly, it would be a better place?
Well, I mean, this is like CNN's version of James O'Keefe, I guess. They're trying to, somebody surreptitiously got Alito's wife to say, yeah, I'm a conservative, and I can't wait till my husband retires so I can fly whatever damn flag I want to fly. And somehow he's got to recuse himself from everything. And it's their hysteria. You talk about the boy who cried, Bruce Wolf. I mean, ProPublica has come up with all this stuff, and they keep throwing as much as they can up against the wall, and none of it's sticking. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. So.
Well, I think everybody can agree that a more godly nation would be a better place. I mean, we wouldn't have crime, we wouldn't have murder, we wouldn't have. If we were if you were truly, if the nation was truly godly, that'd be a wonderful place to live.
No, if it was truly godly, we wouldn't get to fly the pride flag anywhere. You know, so right. I mean, that's
No, it would be. It would become no. It would become Noah's Ark flag.
There we go. There we go. So then speaking of their hysteria, yeah, that's in secret recordings, and I see the New York Times font.
When O'Keefe does it, it's a lot more fun though, because the way O'Keefe does it is he gets girls to find these guys on Tinder, and then set up. Did you know this?
No, I forgot.
He like goes has girls like go through Tinder looking for people that claim to be members of the press or members of the government, okay, and then sets up dates with them, gets them a few drinks in, and gets them to start bragging.
Goodness.
And I mean that's
yeah, it's embarrassing. I don't even want to know the truth that way. So
see, Alito's immune from that because he is married and he is godly, so he's not gonna.
Well, but they always want to try and find something. Remember, I mean, the term being borked, which is what Kennedy, Senator Teddy, did to Robert Bork. I don't want to live in a,
I think it's also. I also think it's what.
Go ahead. Finish.
I think it's what his brother did to Marilyn Monroe too, right?
Well, right. No, but Teddy didn't want. I don't want to live in a nation where I can't drown an intern like Mary Jo Kopechne. When I returned, the car and Mary Jo were gone. Anyway, so then there's another bit of hysteria. I mean, Trump apparently had an email in which he wants to behead some people. I don't know who he wanted to behead. I didn't read past the headline. Oh yeah. Mediate says nobody made a big deal. CNN's Jim Acosta. My God, I mean, that guy was so hysterical. I mean, like from Hysteria when he covered the White House for CNN. Stunned that Trump's beheading themed email hasn't gotten more attention. I didn't even bother to read who he wanted to behead. I assume it was Anne Boleyn because
And knowing Trump at his next speech is first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a guillotine.
Right,
it's going to be the biggest, most beautiful guillotine you've ever seen.
We've got the best guillotines. When we always had the best guillotines at Trump Towers. Yeah. And then CNN and AP apparently are combining. Out of desperation, I guess. Why don't you throw in Colbert and the Washington Post while you're at it? No, I mean, it's just I feel bad for actually, of course, as you know, what these entities need is Trump being reelected because they
sure.
I mean, they're absolutely dying on the vine. There's no question that Trump made Colbert. Colbert's audience was going nowhere, and then he just politicized the whole broadcast, and hey, it works for them. But only so many can take advantage of this. But that's
I don't know if another 4 years is gonna. I mean, that's how many times can you recycle the same joke?
You know what I mean? Their hate is never ending. It's and this will just reinvigorate them. I mean, they no, and I actually believe one or two people may move to Canada as a result of this. Not many, not a lot, but one or two might. Rob De Niro possibly, and not just because it's cheaper to make another movie up there. But
I was twiddling around on YouTube and happened to come across something that I think is hilarious. If you is the 2 minutes of hate segment from the movie 1984, and if you substitute Trump for Goldstein, you can actually imagine a theater full of liberals where they're going, say his name.
That is so funny. I mean, that's so. I totally forgot about it. I mean, I think I read 1984 in like 1976 or 68. So, and I remember I said, I cannot wait till it's actually 1984. I mean, the problem with 1984 is we had Reagan, and it was like, okay, these are good times. This isn't 1984.
I was looking forward to 2000.
Around the corner. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was looking forward to 2001 when I was a kid.
Sure.
You had a very dark childhood, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, don't get me started on. I thought what it was going to be like when 1969 came around. Oh, it's going to be, this is going to be a riot. The jokes are going to be flying. I'm going to get to see Myra Breckenridge, yeah, no question of, no, all those years. But 2000 was definitely something, I was looking forward to 2000 in like the 60s and 70s, wondering, how old I'm going to be in the year 2000. And now I'm 24 years older than that. So,
the year 2000, I was wondering if I was still going to be alive, because that anything over 25 was ancient when I was a kid.
Totally. Absolutely. And then, of course, Y2K, which screwed up everything for us. I mean, we were all holding our breath Y2K was the 6 feet of distancing of the year 2000. I mean, seriously. I'm not going to let Fauci forget that. And I don't want to let people forget that Trump kind of let Fauci do whatever he wanted to, but somehow, we had the best guys in the CDC. No, somehow Trump is going to get away with it. We're going to talk about the polls, of course, our weekly polling segment. Don't forget to remind me to talk about our producer, Chris, who is very, very upset right now because he listens to Steve Bannon for 4 hours a day.
Oh,
and Bannon's going to jail July 1st. We've got to find something else for Chris to do. So that's our project for the next 3 segments of this show. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
I'm worried about the country broadly. If we put someone in power who is openly avowing that he plans to build camps to hold millions of people and to root out what he's described in subhuman terms as his enemy from within. Again, history is helpful here. He's not joking when he says this stuff, and we've seen what happens when people take power proclaiming that kind of agenda. She went on to say, I think there's a little bit of head-in-the-sand complacency that Trump only intends to go after individual people he has already singled out. Do you really think he has plans to stop at well-known liberals? It also seems pretty clear that some people in politics might think they'll be on the safe side, that they might even benefit from it.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And keeping in with our theme of hysteria, thy name is CNN. Don't forget MSNBC. I mean, the grandiosity of these news anchors and anchorettes. Admittedly, the woman makes a lot of money and she's been very successful peddling Russian disinformation or whatever. But to think that Trump, as a matter of fact, I believe Trump said when Hunter Biden was convicted, "Don't worry, Joe, I'm going to take care of Hunter." Like he didn't prosecute Hillary, like he didn't prosecute Hunter, but they just want to believe that because he's probably said he wanted to be.
He actually did the class thing. After months of his getting the crowd to chant "lock her up,"
right?
He said that was kind of like over the top. It's it's not the right thing to do. Well, I'm the president now.
He didn't. Oh, did he say it at the time? Well, he did. He let her off. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said there's no sense in really going after. Well, his Trumpian flair on it was that he said she suffered enough.
Well, she had to be married to Bill. They're not living together all. Well, no,
years. Election day was enough.
Oh
suffering.
My goodness! Who doesn't have sympathy for that? As bad as she was, what are you going to do? Take away her Tyson chicken stock or something like that? This was the unkind. This cut of all. To lose to Donald Trump, are you kidding me? After you had this in the bag, and then
my favorite story
so
about election night, and it's probably apocryphal, but I don't care. I still love it. Is that she had bought like a $200 bottle of champagne to toast her victory. That was sitting there in the ice bucket,
and she smashed it over Bill's head. Please tell me.
No. Okay. She threw it through the widescreen TV.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. I can believe it. So anyway, as far as Rachel Maddow goes, there's something, a local illustration of media grandiosity. Remember the anthrax scare? Remember? And some news anchors, network news anchors like Peter Jennings, I guess, and one of the others, they actually had something anthrax or something like anthrax sent to them. Well, of course, we at local UHF Channel 32 in Chicago wanted to believe, we could get attacked too. So, yeah, a UHF station, and that I worked at, and with a 9 o'clock news with a 2 rating. Okay, well, actually, it was 4 around then, but anyway, so what we did was the upshot was that instead of having one security guard who was asleep when I'd walk in at 4 a.m. to do the morning show, we had 2 security guards who were asleep when I'd walk into the vestibule. Yeah, that's that was the upshot of that. But no, we weren't the recipients of any anthrax.
Do we have time for a Tim Slagle story that kind of ties in, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Back when I lived near north in Chicago and in Old Town, and there was the patch of grass in front of my apartment was the only patch of grass in the neighborhood. So it's where all the high rises came by to let their dogs do their stuff, and it was just full of it. Just complete, and it became very irritating. I had a printer friend of mine print up some signs and laminate them that says, "Warning, due to the unattended pet waste left in this area, it's been treated with a deadly cyanide compound. Do not touch this compound or get it on your clothing." And then I sprinkled flour all over the grass.
Oh my goodness. And did it work?
Well, I woke up the next morning to a hazmat team.
Oh my goodness!
In front of the apartment,
and then you were arrested and spent 5 years in prison.
No, right? I was looking out the window, and one of the guys, just a classic Chicago worker, looks up at me and motions for me to come down, and he just goes, "So somebody did played a joke here, and obviously he thinks it's funny." He goes, "Well, let me tell you." He goes, "You know how much this is costing the city right now?"
Especially with the 4 other guys just standing around there.
in suits.
Directing traffic.
He goes, "I know it's a problem." He goes, "There's got to be a better way of dealing with it." I go, "Okay." And then he goes,
man. Yeah.
And then I go, oh, by the way, it's just flour. He goes, "I know. I tasted it."
Good. Yeah, I think I'm going to make myself some brownies a little bit later. Okay. I mean, with the brownies that you got on the grass already, if you know what I mean. Okay. All right. Well, that is a great story. It's Tim's Story Corner. Okay. Chris, how you doing right now? In anticipation of Steve Bannon going off the air on July 1st, we got to find something for Chris to do for 4 hours a day.
Well, you're assuming he's going to go off the air. It's I just saw that sure. there's a couple of January 6ers that have are now doing a podcast from the inside. So I don't know how they're doing it. I didn't watch the podcast. I just saw it advertised. And number 2, are they still going to be able to lock him up and not do anything to Merrick Garland for the same
contempt
charge?
of court?
Yeah,
which is a fruitless exercise, even though he deserves it. And not only because Merrick Garland made the It's Academic team at Niles West in 1970, and I didn't make it in 1971. I'm not going to recuse myself from this, but he did. Yeah, he won't give up the audio or whatever it is of the Robert Hur interview of Biden, and he's supposed to, right? And it's open and shut as open and shut as Hunter Biden. But, kind of it's a fruitless exercise. You
think so?
Not going to be able to throw him. But you're right. You're right.
You think so? Who is it? Representative Luna. Representative Luna is actually, she's putting a motion to have the Sergeant of Arms arrest him. Which sure would
maybe
be.
He can have the bottom bunk and Trump can have the top one at Rikers Island. And they can do a podcast. I can't believe prisoners get to do podcasts. I mean, I think things went wrong in prison when they allowed them a weight room and televisions. That's not what prison is supposed to be. Prison is supposed to be, Orange is the New Black.
A few years back, a libertarian candidate suggested that anybody who's put in prison should be tied down to his bed for 30 days so that his muscles atrophy and it makes them easier for the guards to handle.
And also the guy in the other bunk, I guess. Yeah, no, sure, yeah, all right, yeah. Boy, libertarian, interesting. I thought that they didn't even believe in any laws, but okay. So, all right, Tim, it's time to look at the latest polls. Interestingly, and the gambling odds because you got a problem, and but here's the latest polls. So the Trump conviction, it seems like nationally, Biden his lead shrunk from 3 points to 1 point, but that's just a bounce, and those things usually go back to find their the level that they were at before. Plus, apparently, Trump is the likely default candidate. When push comes to shove, people really don't want high prices and migrants coming over the border. So it still looks good. Am I right?
Well, according to the betting odds, right after the guilty verdicts came, he dropped down to 8 points. The margin dropped down to 8 points immediately, which is a lot like a stock sell off. When there's a plane crash, Boeing will probably go way down for like a day, and then everyone sees that as a bargain and starts buying it back. So that's essentially what happened. The margin dropped down to 8 points. It's now sitting, the betting odds margin is 16.5 Trump ahead. It's the widest margin since February.
Well, what is 16.5? I mean, that's not
16.5 points ahead.
It's not, well, no, he's not going to win by 16 points.
No, that's the betting. That's people.
The betting.
Yeah.
It's not the actual election, but that's the betting numbers. Okay.
Yeah, more people are betting on Trump by 16. He's the favorite. He's the favorite by 16.5 points.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Here it is. It's we're just a couple of weeks away from Steve Bannon going to jail, and Trump still leads. But what are we going to do?
We might have two weekly wraps a week after that because Chris is going to have lots of free time then.
I would just do it just to give him something to do. I thought that was kind of what I was doing already. But what it's got to be something for Chris. Chris, have you thought of like reading Anna Karenina or something? One of the great books,
or The Fall of the Roman Empire. It's that's a several volume set.
A little Gibbon. There are other things than listening to Steve Bannon. You don't need to listen to the commentary podcast because I just plagiarize.
I know I get the updates
from it, for this podcast.
I don't think you want to listen. I don't think you want to listen to Steve Bannon in prison because it's going to sound like squeak.
So, Chris, I'm sorry, you were saying something and I missed it. What did I miss, Chris?
Saying I don't have to listen to the commentary podcast because you regurgitate it every week on the show, and then Peter Navarro is already in prison for the same charge that Bannon has, which is contempt of court. So, it's a likelihood that he is going, and he will have guest hosts, and the guest hosts are not nearly as entertaining as he is.
So I got to tell you, you remind me a little bit now. I feel like my hero William Buckley Jr. because his producer of Firing Line was a guy named Warren Steibel, who was a liberal. I mean, his producer was a liberal, and that's how magnanimous Buckley was. And I can use phrases like mutatis mutandis and immanentize the eschaton and all that stuff.
How long is Bannon going away for?
Clunk litter of the day.
I believe it's 4 months.
Yeah, how long?
Oh, okay. So they'll have guest hosts for 4 months.
Okay. All right.
All, of course, leading up to the election.
All right. We Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
An actions have consequences.
Making national headlines this morning, the Hunter Biden guilty verdict. The president's son convicted on felony gun charges after just 3 hours of deliberations. A jury finding him guilty on all 3 counts for lying about his drug use on a federal form in 2018 when he bought a gun. After the verdict, a juror questioned if the trial was even necessary.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Hey, at least they found Hunter Biden guilty. I mean, a lot of people thought, Delaware jury nullification. But
I'm of the mind that now the dialogue's going to be, well, hasn't he suffered enough? So when the tax charges come up, they can say, Joe Biden can actually say, well, I'm going to issue a pardon because he's already been convicted, and that way
reminiscent of the calls for a ceasefire before Israel even retaliated. Can we at least make him sweat for a day? No, Biden will. I mean, he says he won't. I think he said he wouldn't pardon him, but
David Muir asked him if a pardon was a possibility, and he said no. And then somebody asked Corinne Jean-Pierre on the Air Force One on the press plane, said, well, he said he wouldn't pardon him. What about a commutation? And she goes, well, I would refer you to. That's my department. I would refer you to the president has already said that he would not pardon him. And I don't know. I can't predict what the president would do. So,
you know what the big problem in all this is, Tim? That you still watch ABC News. That's the problem. So,
I gotta know.
You get with the program and watch and listen to Steve Bannon for 4 hours a day. Come on.
I got to know what the other side thinks, and David Muir is a great example, a great little microcosm of how the left thinks. So,
yeah, no, I personally need my news filtered. I don't want to hear bad stuff. I can't even watch on election night, I can't. I always had a hard time watching debates, even like the great communicator Reagan. He stumbled around plenty. George Bush, meantime, Chris just wants to show that he doesn't. It's not only Steve Bannon. He used to watch Chris Matthews every day too. I once interviewed Chris Matthews in person. He was in our studio at WLS, me and Dan Propp, and he had a book about the Kennedys or whatever. I can't remember. This is before. This is after he said that Obama gave him a thrill up his leg. So
it was after.
Oh yeah, because the thrill of his leg was when
I know that, but I'm wondering. So you didn't give him grief about it?
Yeah, I raised an eyebrow. He's a very how people like me are. I mean, we're tigers without anybody in front of your face. We had what Hoda, your stereotypical chick Today Show host on. Somebody that we wouldn't normally vivisect. Well, both of us couldn't have been more wowed by. She was so personable. I was, I was ready to start watching the Today Show every day. Find out some knitting.
I can't see Dan not saying anything about.
He was wowed too. She was she came.
No, I mean for Chris Matthews not making a during a live read, he could say, yes, get yourself a My Pillow. It'll give you a thrill up your leg.
I do have to give Dan credit. We had Jesse Jackson in the studio once or twice, and he would not shake his hand. Dan wouldn't. I mean, just didn't shake his hand. He also once called Van Jones of CNN. We had Van Jones on the ropes. I mean, we were winning on all the points, and then Dan dropped the figure 4 foundation or basically threw a folding chair at him. Because he said he called him like a suck toy for the something left. And I mean, it was just like,
wow.
Man, we won this. We won this argument. And I get it because I've been known to blow up too, so I understand that. But anyway, there was a waste of time. Oh, let's switch here to Jews news right now. And the obligatory reading, not from the Torah, but from Commentary Magazine's Abe Greenwald. Hamas refuses every ceasefire offer that Israel and the U.S. put on the table. Why? Because a ceasefire means no more dead Gazans, and dead Gazans are Hamas's chief natural resource and most valuable export. It's what brings in the billions of aid money that's used to build tunnels where Hamas hides, while civilians absorb the blows overhead. Now, I got to tell you, I think that's probably better than anything Steve Bannon could have come up with. So, but so I'll trade, the guy I'm plagiarizing with the guy you're plagiarizing from.
Speaking of plagiarizing, have you seen somebody's put up a video? They put Reagan's D-Day speech alongside Joe Biden's D-Day speech, and you thought he gave that up back in the 80s when it cost him the presidential campaign. No, he's still doing it. There's no question about it. What I always said, and this I did come up with this, and you can use this without attribution. Plagiarism is the sincerest form of flattery. That is I actually coined that. You can use it. It's not trademarked. It's in public domain. But I would. Would it flatter you if I used it, Bruce?
It would absolutely. Hey, that's Tim Foyle using my line there. But here's the thing. I didn't go line by line with this. Peggy Noonan wrote that speech.
Right.
Peggy 1,000 Points of Light Noonan wrote that speech for Reagan. Sure. I mean, if he's reciting statistics, that's not the creativity. But were there certain turns of phrase that Biden used?
Oh, absolutely. The way he described the initial assault on Normandy was almost word for word. Is gunfire overhead, wading to an unknown shore while a grenade went off. It's almost word for word.
Well, I mean, seriously though, how else are you going to describe it? How else are you going to describe it?
I'll send you the link afterwards. You can't say that it wasn't the same speech.
Like a scene from Roman Holiday or something. It's not that. It is. That's your basic. I mean, I'll give him a pass. No, I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm just thinking that he's not going to win re-election. So I'm just kind of like sending him off. Did you see that?
It was one of my favorite lines in The Office, by the way, is somebody had a baby and used a tub did the underwater birth.
Yeah. Le Boyer, I believe it's called.
Yeah. And somebody said, boy, that's amazing that you did that, man. That had to be like wading ashore at Normandy.
I watched all 9 seasons of The Office like recently. I poo-pooed it for some reason. It was too much for me years ago, and I just watched and I loved the whole thing. And I can't remember anything, of course, except one of the last images, and I don't think I'll ever forget this. It's the wedding of Dwight Schrute with his longtime, lover. I guess they finally get married. And the wedding ceremony is outdoors, where each one of them is standing in his and her grave that they will be buried in, as a reminder that this is till death do you, and just remember, this is where you're ending up. I mean, and you know what? I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I got to tell you, I think the more wedding ceremonies should double as funeral ceremonies as well. 2 birds with one stone.
What happens if they don't die together?
Yeah. So the Washington Post, with Israel, of course, they rescue a few hostages. Washington Post headline was 200 Palestinians die in Israel rescue attempt. Rescue. I mean that's there's Dwight Schrute in his grave, 6 feet over.
At least ABC isn't saying that Palestinians released the hostages.
Right. Somebody did.
200. Yeah, I heard they did. Yeah, 200 Palestinians died during hostage release.
Right. Yeah. I mean, technically, it is a release. So
it proved me wrong. I did not think there were any live hostages.
Oh, okay.
I was of the mind that now they're all
right. So then of course there was the tarring of Lafayette, the statue of him. Well, the White House just sat by. I mean, aren't there any horse whips around? Mayor Daley shoot to maim order or something. They were just allowed to do Lafayette. They were allowed to tar that, and it could have been worse. Joe Biden could have left the key fob for Air Force One on the front steps of the White House to avoid an unnecessary break-in. I'll allow the mayor of Toronto's edict for letting people take your cars. Okay, that was.
And it kind of reminds me. I don't know how it ties in, but it reminds me of Hillary's speech saying, "I ain't no ways tarred."
All right, of course. And then she throws the champagne bottle right in the widescreen TV. So, and now I can't. Eric Clapton says Israel's awful, so now I can't even listen to Layla anymore. So I'm really upset about that. Somebody tweeted to me.
I couldn't listen to it anymore before he said it. There's just some songs that have been. I've reached my fill. I've heard them. Brown Eyed Girls right up there.
Well, right.
Songs Layla, I can go there.
I mean the acoustic version too. I mean, you've heard it enough.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that.
Yeah, somebody tweeted to me that, hey, he wrote that song for Patty Boyd, George Harrison's wife, who he then stole from George Harrison, right? I think that's what happened. So, he's not even.
And then wrote "Wonderful Tonight" was also written for her. She's,
Eric Clapton, bad guy. I'll watch the parts of Goodfellas with the sound off. I know enough of the dialogue already. Anyway, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Caitlin Clark is PR. That's where, how can they leave her? Once again, everybody's, out to get her. They don't want to grow the game. I understand all of those things. I don't think Caitlin Clark's one of the 12 best players right now. Now, if you want to have popularity, she's number one, and it's not even close.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Yeah, Dan Patrick kind of scares me that he actually goes 12 deep on women's basketball. Pretty good. And there was a tweet he had. I don't think Caitlin Clark is one of the 12 best players right now. If you want to have Caitlin on the roster, then who are you taking off? And how do you tell that person, hey, we want to have the popular girl on? If anyone has a gripe being snubbed, it's Arike Ogunbowale. No relation to Adewale Agunlia, former Bears player. So, yeah, that scares me that Dan Patrick, because I mean, think about this with Dan Patrick. He knows this much about the WNBA, probably knows even more about the NBA, NHL, college football and basketball, the NFL and MLB, and the International Federation of Tiddlywinks, which means there's no way that he has read Anna Karenina. Isn't that right, Chris? So not exactly a Renaissance man. I mean, you can't be that steeped. I mean, you got to turn in your man. It's okay to, I'll allow it. And another famous line from The Office, where Michael Scott is in a hearing for sexual harassment. He's the one being deposed, or he's the one who was accused, and he's testifying. And somebody asks him a question, and he says, "I'll allow it." It's like he's the judge. So, I mean, I guess you had to be there, but anyway, I'll allow this. And but
I know which one I would take off. I would take off the one that's most likely to be arrested for illegal substances. That's the one I would
in the Soviet
off.
Union or Ruski.
Anywhere.
Right.
Hey, look at Caitlin. I don't think Caitlin's ever smoked pot. She doesn't look like it.
Isn't she just wonderful? Isn't she just great? She's so white and pure. Oh my goodness! Oh, that brings up to me the TV show Evil. I've mentioned this before. It's it's 4 seasons. I mean, it's great. It's a black priest and this white psychoanalyst or whatever girl, and they do exorcisms, or they try to find proper therapy for people who are either possessed or just plain nuts. And and it's a
Are there
fun series.
are they both in the show? Are they both possessed and nuts, or are they all just nuts? And
It's different episodes. There's there are variations on all those themes, and it's fascinating. My wife and I love to watch it, but they keep coming back. I mean, this is the third. I'm in the third season. It's at least the third time that they've mentioned that, how bigoted the Catholic Church is.
oh, sure.
There's only how many black priests are there, and that also at one point the black priest is looking at pictures of sculptures that Michelangelo had done of angels, and there's never a black one there, and who knows, Jesus was probably
how many Irish rabbis are there? I mean,
Irish rabbis. Well, as Yogi Berra said when a Jew was elected mayor of Dublin, Ireland, only in America. But so. Oh, I'll pause for the obligatory laugh there.
I mean, come on. There's not a lot of black Catholics. It's not their preferred religion.
No, right. And here's the thing.
Only in Chicago, where they're allowed to make all the here in Chicago at Saint Sabina, they're allowed to. It's like probably not.
It's a revival meeting, right? It's
Father
Flager.
It is. It totally is. It's Father Flager. It's like at the Catholic mass done in the Southern Baptist tradition. So
well, I'll tell you, Father Flager flummoxes me, and I try to say that 10 times real fast, and it never works. But here's the thing about evil, and I mean, I like the show and all that, but if you're going to have like three examples of racism, can we at least have a little balance here and have the priest be unqualified, be the Claudine Gay, the Harvard president of the priesthood? Oh, I mean, I got to know Latin phrases. No, come on, that's old hat. Nabisco. So have something there.
How about Pig Latin? Is that close enough?
Yeah, ixnay on the pay Latin, buddy. So yeah, but it's a fun show. Speaking of CBS, guys, did you see there was this video of Dick Van Dyke? He's 98 years old, and he's strutting around. I think we have that, Chris. I'm not sure. Do we? And he's got a cane, sure, and he's not trying to sashay around an ottoman, granted, or trip over one. But I mean, for 98,
yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Good, because Maury Amsterdam's not around anymore.
Well, I don't even think Richie's around anymore.
Oh, wouldn't it?
I think
Richie's gone.
I think he's the only surviving member of the entire cast.
Alan Brady is gone. Mel is gone. Mary, of course. Don't get me started on Mary Tyler Moore. Don't get me started on her. Oh my goodness.
Somebody pointed out to me, by the way, this is kind of interesting. It's Richie was kind of, if you remember the show, Richie was kind of a little jerk.
I just didn't see him as much of a personality at all. But how was he?
Just kind of a little. Daddy, did you bring me anything?
Oh, okay.
He's kind of a little jerk. But if you think about it, it's Carl Reiner based that show on his life. So Richie.
Wait, I connected that. Meathead. Richie is Meathead. Meathead is Richie. This is a greater revelation than in the Jim Carrey movie. What was the revelation which
Jim Carrey movie?
The first one,
I don't. The first one was once bitten with Lauren Hutton. That was his.
But there was right. But Einhorn is somebody is Einhorn. I got half of the equation right. But Richie is Meathead. Meathead is Richie. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That absolutely makes sense. Oh man, that is the greatest revelation, and it came in like right near the tail end of this show. We got to highlight that. All right, Chris wants us to look at pictures of Paige Spiranac. Okay, and Paige Spiranac is this female golfer, really well endowed, and she has offered, and she's actually a good golfer, and she wants to take the place of Joey Chestnut, You talk about chestnuts.
Sure.
We are. Yeah, sure. Anyway, Joey Chestnut, who is apparently been disqualified from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest this year because of some endorsement conflict or whatever. But she claims that she can eat like something like 6 hot dogs in 10 minutes or 10 hot dogs in 6 minutes. I kind of lost my attention right now as Chris is showing a picture.
I just hope.
But she actually is a good golfer.
I hope they run that. I hope they run that contest in slow motion.
Right. Well, here's right. It would be interesting if you were in this. It's funny because Ben Wright of the golf sportscaster years ago for CBS was fired by CBS after he said that well-endowed women could not be good golfers because something was in the way of their swing. I mean, they couldn't even see the ball. So when they were trying, hello ball, no, I can't see it. So, but he was wrong about that, and he's
there's actually two golfers that look.
She's alive.
There's 2 female golfers that look like that now, right? Isn't there another one, or is this the same one that we keep bringing up?
She's not on the PGA Tour.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know who you're referring to.
Oh, okay.
I think I think it's Paige's. There are others though. Not that I've been looking. I just know that
getting in the way of the swing has been brought up many, many times on the weekly wrap with Bruce Wolf.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
all right, let's turn to something else. What else? We have Don Lemon. No. Oh, you know what's good to talk about? WLS. It's a favorite one of mine, right?
Yeah.
So WLS hired their 6th guy since Dan and I got fired, which was less than 10 years ago. Now they have their 6th host, and it's Ray Stevens.
Well, Ray Stevens used to fill in for Big John Howell when Big John Howell was there.
He was a partner of John's like a long time ago or something. But I don't follow it. It's all incestuous. Everybody's been partners with everyone. I actually met him once with John because I was at WLS. I was filling in somewhere of something else, and he was there, and it seemed nice enough. And they fired this Steve Cochran because who knows? Probably I'd heard that he was like 35th in the ratings, and there's only like 28 stations, so I think they were including like Columbus, Ohio, in the ratings. So, but here's the thing, and Ray is a conservative. And I actually listened a little bit on Monday, and he had Darren Bailey on. Well, Darren Bailey's even come on this podcast. That's
right.
I mean, we haven't had many guests, but he was actually even on this podcast. And Bailey was saying stuff like, "Oh, if only we could get people not to be apathetic," or okay, whatever. And I mean, he was okay. I mean, Ray is fine. He didn't say anything that I didn't know already because I plagiarize from Commentary Magazine every day, so I there's not much that he is. And here's the thing, I wrote to the general manager whom I know, and I said I didn't even get a chance to apply for this one, my old job this time, before another guy got his old job back because he was once the co-host with John Hall on this. So, and then GM's a nice guy, and he said, "Oh, was already filling in here, or something." And so I wish him the best. Absolutely, Ray Stevens,
sure,
the best.
It's Steve Cochran was not a good fit with the station.
No, you know who would be good fit? Steve Bannon, as soon as he gets out of jail. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.